Guys, I want to talk about mortgages, okay? And how much we've been lied to, and how much we're still living the fantasy of the mortgage or the dream or the achievement of having a house. Why everyone still buys that dream, okay? And hopefully we can get to the bottom of it. I can, get people to think a bit more. I think that's the idea. Like, just think a bit more. So, I say this because I had a video the other day putting up, and a lot of people came back to me to complain that rent is throwaway money. Rent is a waste of time. You're paying your landlord's rent, and a few people, excuse me, a few people have tried to argue against this, right? And I hope to join one of those as well, so that we get people thinking. Okay, so here's the idea, right? The idea of getting a mortgage is something was sold from years ago. Okay, so I'm sure your dad, your mom, your grandparents, great grandparents had houses. Okay, and we still have that, that belief that having a house is the future. Okay, it keeps you going. Okay, but that's changed a lot. Okay, this whole idea came up, I think, from the 90s when the Americans came up with this. What was the Americans? They came up with this thing called the American Dream. Okay, it was part of the American dream to have a house. Okay, and it came up from this guy called James Adams or something like that. I think, yeah, James Adams, 1920. Came up with, just coincidentally, 1920, there was the American Dream. Then it came up 1920, 31. James Adams came up with this theory around American Dream. It became more of a commercial drive to own a home. Coincidentally, 1931, in the States, starting this, they came up with a mortgage where it was really, really, like, it was a short-term mortgage, right? It's not what we see today. Today, people are paying mortgage until they are 65. So a typical person watching this video starts their mortgage at 25, okay, and then possibly finish paying the mortgage at 60. So all through their life, they're paying for a house. In the 30s, it used to be a small, like 5-6 years mortgage, 10-15 years max. And the interest was really high, so not everyone had a house, okay, but it was the aspiration to own a home. And then people went to it. But now, I can tell you, again, the average. I'm not talking about people whose parents paid 50% of the mortgage and they only have 50%. You're the minority there. I'm not talking about I think there's a group already called FIRE, right? Where they try and retire very early. If you retire at 40, fully paid your mortgage, you've paid all your debt and you're free, okay, to farm or free to do anything. It's a different conversation if you're really free, okay? But forget that for a minute. Hopefully I'll address that in this video. But the point is, if you've paid off everything, okay, paid off your mortgage, paid everything before 40, you are the super minority in the world. 90% of the people on earth actually still pay a mortgage until they retire. Okay, that's a problem which we need to talk about. Okay, is this still a dream? Is this still part of the American dream to own that much mortgage, So again, that's the point. Like, it just became such a big deal that for you to become an adult, if you haven't owned your own home, you're still seen as renting or having a landlord. And when you become a landlord, it's a different conversation. So let's talk about that today. I'm going to talk about one, right? So people talk about, they say, hey, rent is throwing away your house, or throwing away money, okay? That you actually own the house, that the home is your investment, it's your retirement. Is that true, though? Is your home really an investment? For your home to be an investment, it has to be an asset, right? And everyone doesn't, again, I don't use any jargons, but there's your asset and there's your liability, okay? Your liability is what pays you. So your liability is what is, your asset is what pays you, okay? If you have a stock, an investment, if you have a watch, yeah, if you have okay, sorry, by the way, I'm the CEO of Aruka. Aruka is a smart payment ring. So we do payment rings. If you have a gold ring or a Aruka ring like this, then that's it. You have it. There's nothing more to do, right? You bought this. It's almost like your bank. You have a bank, you're not paying anything per month. You just tap to pay. Okay, I'm selling my ring there. So tap to pay. Okay, that's it. So we're banking up on your phone, we're banking up without a phone on your fingers. So you tap to pay. But I say that because if you have a Rolex watch, a Rolex watch is an asset because you've got the watch forever. Every year you've got the Rolex watch. This is not a Rolex watch, by the way. This is also a payment bracelet. You tap to pay with these as well. So we allow users just tap to pay with no screens, no cards, nothing. Well, my point there is if you've got a Rolex is also an asset because you can sell that Rolex in the future. If you put it in a box and do nothing with it, nothing is wrong with it. You can sell it. There are people selling Patek Philippe. There are people selling the Tracy Partner. There are different types of watches today. There's Richard Mille. You leave that watch in a box, you go sell it, not a problem. That's an asset. The liability on the other hand, costs you more. This house is a liability, guys. Right? It's a liability because if I do nothing with this shelf is going to fall. If you come in, you're not going to see the shelf standing in the next 10 years. That's a liability for you, guys, that people don't realize. Not only that, I'm consuming it. So it becomes even worse. You're consuming the liability in the sense that you're living here. This wall is scratched. I'm going to have to paint that. This shelf is gone. I probably have to change that. So you keep changing. So you're consuming the liability. So it's costing you more to actually own it. So your house, no matter how much you call it, is not an asset. A house is worse than a liability because you're actually paying money to even keep it there. You get what I mean, right? So specifically, if you're just looking at that, a house is not the same, okay, as an asset. No one should actually, if anyone tells you that, again, come back, watch this video, send this video to them so they understand. And I'm not just saying it again. I've worked in banking all my life, okay? And then the question now becomes, who are you paying? So an asset, it comes to you, it's on your books. A liability, you're owing the bank. You're actually owing the bank money. You're not really. So when people say, oh, you're okay, it's yours, right? Is it really yours? Because if you break that down, firstly, you're not getting the house for free. You have to pay a deposit, a down payment, okay, of 10%. On a 1 million house, you're paying 100K. That's 100K cash that you could have invested in the stock market. People argue about investment in the stock market. That's true. You can invest that 100K in the stock market for 20 years and compared to buying a house for 20 years. I'll tell you the difference, right? If you buy the house, if you buy the stock market 20 years, you leave it there, that becomes an asset because S&P 500, it goes up and down. So the S&P 500 just picks the best 500 stocks in the US. Again, it could be weighted anywhere. Right now, it's weighted towards tech because a lot of tech companies are valuable, okay? But if they stop performing, it automatically brings down the basket so that you have more stock. So in effect, you do nothing than just sit there and that earns money. That's your 100K. You effectively double that money every 7 years, historically. No financial advice here, okay? But in truth, it's common sense that if you do nothing, S&P grows 5%. In 7 years, you've doubled your money. Another 7 years, you've tripled your money. Your money is not going up for housing. Because on the other hand, your 100K, you pay it as a deposit. And now guess who you're paying? The bank. You now start paying the bank because at least the first, you'll be surprised with this number, right? But the first 30 years of a mortgage, if you have a 50-year mortgage, okay, take it down, 20-year mortgage, your first 10 years, most of your payment goes not to principal, but to interest. So you're paying interest on the house. If you have $1 million house, you're paying interest on that a lot for the first few years. So if any point, if you default the bank just takes the house. No matter how much you paid, they're not going to say, oh, good, here you go, you're good, you can have a little bit of equity. No. Most of it goes in there, unless you're lucky and the housing prices goes up, but it hasn't. I'll talk about that in a minute. So the way it stands, right, what you're doing is you're actually the price of the house is going up, but you're paying interest for the first few years and then slowly start paying down the principal. And at that point, you can be happy to say, yes, you're almost getting some sort of equity on the house. Okay, and then we'll talk about prices going on. Is the house price really going up or inflation is just going up? It's inflation. I mean, you got houses here in the UK that were, in the 60s, they were like, let's just 60s. Yeah, in the 60s, you get them for 100K, 50K to 100K on a typical house in the UK. But then go out now and then now it's possibly 500K. Not the prices didn't go up. It's the dollar value, the actual pounds has gone down. That's inflation eating into the money. So rather than getting a return, you've gotten an increase in the value. That's different from a place like London, Canary Wharf, New York, San Francisco, places where there's been activity around it that increase the value of the house. That's different. In that one, you better be lucky to own the house there. So different conversation there, but in truth, the way it stands, right? What I want to say is to guys, please don't panic buy into a house because in truth, you're not really owning the house. Yeah. Let's talk about the other things that come with it, right? So you go in and eventually you finish paying the house, okay? But here's the point, you're still paying council taxes. If you don't pay those council taxes, the house is gone. So it wasn't really yours to start with. You've moved from paying a landlord as rent, you've now gone to paying the bank. When you finish paying the bank, you pay the government. Again, we're talking about the UK. It's the same in the US. In the US, you've got different states. The state taxes in the US is almost the same as a rent. Like crazy numbers. Right? So you do that, and then what happens then? You've got so much cash, okay, and then you've paid that down. When you pay down the mortgage, then you've got the rent to pay. Or you've got the government taxes to pay. Wait a minute. I talked about the table, the chairs, the washers, the furniture. This wall here, if you leave the house for the next 10 years, it's just going to fall apart. So you have to paint it, you have to maintain it. The dishwasher, the dryers, everything, you have to keep paying it. You have to keep maintaining it. That's not free. That, if you were renting that house, the landlord would have had to do that. Okay, so it looks like I'm shitting on these guys a lot, but I'm not. I just want to make sure, guys, that you get the truth, you get the honest truth in terms of both sides of the argument, and you think about what you do properly. Okay, I know that what used to happen those days is not the same as what's happening now. The world has changed. The world has changed. So I'll tell you what's happened, right? Those days, if you go in with the American dream in the 1920s, 1930s, what used to happen is you would have your dad, your mom, then what they'll do is they'll rent a house out for you, okay? It's a typical story, right? They'll rent a house out for you around the corner in the same village where your auntie, your uncle, everyone lived in the same village, okay? Everybody lived there, so you had to have a house there. When you have a house there, then you become a man, right? You're seeing that, oh yes, you've got your house, you can now take care of people, you're now matured, okay? And people come visit in your house. That was the story those days. But things have changed a lot. If you live in Alabama, if your parents live in Alabama, guess what? I doubt you're going to grow up in Alabama now. Like, the world is becoming a village. In the sense that you have to get up, you have to look around. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to go to uni in Alabama, or you go to university in New York. If you go to uni in New York, and this applies to any country. If you're in London, you grew up in Manchester, guess where you're going to uni? 9 times out of 10, you're going to go to uni in London, Warwick. Or you can fly to the US to go to school. So nowadays, people are getting up and going to universities in different parts of the world to meet other people. If you stay in the village where you are, you're losing money already. If you were born in Alabama and you did nothing and went to school in Alabama, you went to university and stayed in the same university in Alabama, and you got a job, a local job around the corner, you've started losing money already because of the house. Because now you're stuck to the house. But what you do in general, what most people do is they get out and look for the best possible unit to go to maximize their earning potential. If you do that, then what do you have? You've now got a different country you're living in, or a different state. When you're done with that, what do? You have a partner. You pick a partner. Both of you decide the best place to go to raise a family. It's not going to be it could be, but it's not. 9 times out of 10, you go to a city because you maximize that. Cities, historically, and just from pure fact as well, history, and a city is where you get the most money because you have a lot of talents coming in there. A lot of companies are there. So what happens then? You go into that city, you go and you live together in the city. What are you getting there? Unless you're rich enough to get a mortgage or your parents sell that house, you have to rent. And what do you do after you rent? You try and get up enough money, which is the lie we're being told. You not get up enough money to get a mortgage and live in there. So now you started a house that was there, and then you have a new house here that you could have rented, but you really, like, the mentality about buying is there that you have to buy. Again, and prices go just above the odds that you could have rented for cheaper, but you try to buy because of that lie you've been told. And what happens? You buy, and then guess what? Next point is your kids grown. Forget the kids. Actually, when the kids start growing up, guess what? You have a promotion at work. What do? I'm telling you, I see it a lot as well. You go and offer people, and they tell you, listen, I can only stay in this village. So you've already lost that role because of that. Because what will happen is they'll get someone who's going to relocate to New York. We've got a few customers in Dubai, and we're about to open up a company in Dubai. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to open a company, and we're going to find people in Dubai, or people that are going to relocate to Dubai. That's what you do, right? You find people around where you are. Work from home can only work so far. You still have to relocate. You still have to travel to where you're going. Can't be too far. So what happens then? You have to make sure you relocate. But you can't relocate if you bought a house. See, it ties you down. It ties down your earning potential. So what you do then is you have to move. That's where renting comes in handy. Okay? And then when you're done, what happens? Again, my point is you should finish what you're doing, then go back and retire somewhere. You're not going to retire in a home or a house or a mortgage in the traditional sense, right? What you want is you want to retire to a flat for you and your partner. I hope this makes sense to you guys. So again, I'm not saying that this is financial advice, guys. I don't want anyone to listen to this as financial advice. I don't know you. I know my customers. These are my customers. I'm not sure about their financial status as well. So it's not a financial advice. Don't take this as gospel. However, don't take a house purchase as gospel. Don't feel bad and kill yourself over getting a mortgage. The mortgage not end on. The mortgage has been a lie. It's a lie we've been told from just pure commercialization of mortgages, which I used to be a part of. We all did in banking. There are two sectors that were very good. Okay, one obviously is the mortgage, because the debt that you get in there and you're locked in that debt for years. In fact, right now, if you were going to rent a house, It's a secured loan and an unsecured loan. A secured loan definitely goes against the house because they know you're not going anywhere. They know you're locked to that location. So your rates are cheaper. Okay. But that doesn't mean the inflation doesn't catch up with you. Your rents will be cheaper. You could, that's true. That's one strong argument. You can also get a better rate for what you borrow against your house. But on the other hand as well, your expenses still goes up. Maintenance is still the same cost. There's a good argument to say, yes, okay, my mortgage is not going to go up. That's true. Why rent will go up? That's true. But rent only goes up because of the cost to maintain the house. That's why rent goes up. So that while your mortgage is straight, you're the same level, okay, at some point, which is good. If you have a fixed rate mortgage, it's the same rate. But the downside of that becomes that your expenses goes up. And that's where things balance out anyway. Well, again, it's an uncomfortable truth, right? And it's something we need to talk about, right? And just to be clear, I'm not telling you not to buy a house, guys. Please buy a house, but it better be worth it. Okay, just look through it. Make sure you're definitely comfortable with the city. Make sure you plan to live in that city for the next 25 years. Okay, make sure your career supports it. Make sure you find another partner within that city to stay in. Make sure your children also love that city because if they don't, they're going to move out. If they move out, you're stuck in a house. Then guess what? You're trying to mortgage the house or borrow against the house so you can take care of your kids. It's either that or you just rent, right? So but I'm not going to tell anyone what to do, but I think it's something to watch out for, guys. Catch you and be safe and keep thinking, guys. Oda Aruka. Thank you.